Every year, the hallowed halls of Brands Hatch call for the greatest and largest Formula Ford event of the year. In real life, this just happened in the last week, and in iRacing, we've had it real now for just a couple of years. Welcome to the FF1600 Festival in iRacing, the only road Formula special event on the entire schedule, would you believe it? A heat-based mad dash around the Indy circuit of Brands Hatch. We get to witness over 50 drivers take to this track over the course of an hour and try and find one absolute champion in the midst. My name's Harry Bowes, alongside Ron Mons as ever. We've been bringing you the season on this channel for a good few years, but it's been great to finally return to this. It's one of the places I started in a broadcast, and it's very, very fun to be alongside Ron here and get to viewing this whole grid and what's going to be a very chaotic day.
Oh, it is going to be hectic. Maybe a little bit terrifying for these racers out there on the circuit, but no, we're going to have a heck of a lot of fun here today at Brands Hatch on this rather unique Indy configuration. Only 5 turns around this circuit is a short blast in the world of motorsports, especially on these special events. I would say outside of the oval side of things, this is probably the shortest special event course that we run for the entirety of the iRacing season. Got to be quick-paced in terms of the racing, quick-paced in terms of the laps, as we're all racing sometimes put down.
53 drivers are qualifying right now to try and earn their spot in one or two heats. So forgive me for not analysing this in absolute detail. I think I would lose my mind. But what you need to know is about how the day goes on. We'll be sorting the drivers that qualify right now into 2 heats of drivers in Heat 1 and even drivers in Heat B. Top 13 we're expecting will advance from each round to the final, and we'll have a special consolation round for one more driver who didn't make it to fight all the way up to the top. 3 races of 10 laps and 1 20-lap shootouts win means there'll be action all over the track that we're not going to be able to catch all of in any way. But it's always an absolute treat. The racing is chaotic, the racing is scary, and being out there every last position matters as drivers continue wrapping up their laps across the board. I'd like to thank Frederick Surley and FILMBIL.NO as ever for helping bring coverage of this series to Maconi Entertainment. Frederick has raced in the real Formula Ford Festival many a year ago. It's a place for many an aspiring learning driver, but also some clubman ones. I do need to fill you in while we still have time, and a few interesting facts about the real event. Obviously, in real life, the Formula Ford is sort of a car class, and the FF1600 is one of the biggest off-the-shelf ones you can buy. But in real life, there's a bit more variety out there in the field, and there's a bunch of people that kit out sort of a custom Formula Ford to look like a historic car. Couldn't be here this year, was there last year though, and you see ones that have Lotus 49 style bodies, and they're slower, and they even get special rounds. They literally get whole heat specially for historic cars. Some of them bring the classic F1 liveries with the tobacco sponsors. They sort of do it all. It's incredibly interesting to see. In iRacing, things are a little bit more standardized. I do also need to tell you that this default livery, being currently piloted by Rebecca Morrill, but I'm sure there's a few more out there, is a real thing. I've seen it on real cars, and it sort of breaks my brain every time I saw it on one. I was like, that's not the thing from the game, is it? Oh, indeed it is. Still plenty of drivers, you have to set their times. Your heat is sort of based on the odd or even position on the row, so really you just want something high up on the grid, but whether you're first, second, third or fourth, things like that aren't quite as important. We're going to be splitting this field of 53 drivers into 2, and there's plenty of famous names, plus some others that we've never seen before on the broadcast, hoping to make their mark. Last time I broadcasted one of these races, it was indeed run by a driver who is here again in the 9 car, but it's only qualified 15th on the grid, so gonna have lots of battling up and down. Here's Jason Chen, one of the few drivers left to set a time. Andre Castro as well, fresh off a win in the Radicals on the iRacing channel just a few minutes before now. Has to make it to the first time slot of the special event. And remember, if you like what you see, you'll be able to race this throughout the Saturday. There's 4 more time slots. Check out the iRacing UI. It's a lot of fun. This is my favorite event to drive of the year. But do expect trouble, okay? I survived in some very unusual circumstances, let me tell you that.
Yeah, and I can imagine this race is going to be a survival of the fittest, just a race of survival, period. You could be very out of shape, much like me, and you could probably bounce your way into victory. But let's see who's going to do well here today. We are going to have a heck of a lot of fun as we continue to see some drivers saying sometimes on the board. This, I believe, is Andre Castro, a driver who, as you just said, how he won at Mid-Ohio in the Radical Esports Cup broadcast on the iRacing channel just a matter of about an hour and change ago. That race far different. That race was tame. This one certainly isn't going to be, but Andre Castro is somebody who we know is good in these Formula Fords, both in the sim and in real life. I believe it was about 4 years ago today where Castro walked away with a podium in the 2021 Formula Ford Festival in real life. So keep an eye on this American behind the wheel of that number 10 cartoon press here tonight.
Andre Castro 13 from the first go around. We're not going to get the whole tower up because I think putting 53 drivers up would melt it. But trust me, we're almost done. Just 1 or 2 here to cross the line. Andre Castro, one of the only that has actually set those laps rather late. I don't think his position is going to change. 13th, that would be heat 1 of racing. Both the heats are 10 laps each, so there's very little time to make up position, and this is a layout that it's sort of notoriously quite hard to pass on. Very few turns, and you don't get a draft run down the straights. There's hushed rumours that the full circuit is actually better for these cars, but this is where they host the real event. This is where the drivers run around all that time, and this is where iRacing has chosen to replicate it thanks to help with the BSRCC, I believe. They do have it as a licensed event. This car right here is preventing us from advancing the session, by the way. I just want you to know that. So we've got 40 seconds. Do you have a good story, Ron?
I'm trying to think of a good story now. I will say that today is Halloween, so happy Halloween to everybody who's celebrating. My neighborhood usually goes pretty wild for Halloween, so if you hear any sort of shenanigans outside my window, which is still closed for this show, just because I know my dad's going to have a fog machine on, and I don't want my room to fill up with smoke. Already happens when I'm on the air. But if you hear any sort of extracurricular noises, whatever I'm speaking, it's probably the commotion going on outside. If you ever hear like loud squeaks or something like slamming onto my desk, it's probably a rock that fell out of my head as I'm commentating these races. But now we got 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 second left here in qualifying, and we're about to get this day of racing up and rolling here right about now.
This is going to be a very, very, very fast day, so forgive me for trying to race through the starting grids as quickly as I possibly can. Heat 1, just about to start gridding. That thing better start showing. Henry Moore lines up a pole next to Sam Spinell. James Dennison's in P3, so Dylan McClements, Callum Voisin and Jake Williams. Andre Castro's in 7th next to Pablo Lopez. Young Chi Lin is 9th next to Isabel Matthews in 10th with Brandon K. Vanga in 11th. Sam Devontier in 12th. Nick Aronson lines up in 13th next to Jay Lawrence. Garen Batum next to Felix Fribilla, let's go with. Jason M. Allen is 17th next to Carlos Ojeda. Danny Cavell's in 19th next to Rui Pinto. Fabio Birchtol's in 21st. Jason Chen's in 22nd. Ollie McGowan is in 23rd. And Dean Zaytach is in 24th. Florian Us is in 25th. And Acosta is in 26th. And Elijah K. White is in 27th. 17 drivers, and I'm anticipating, based on the typical format, yes, we have enough drivers. Only 13 are going to make it. And you may sound like 13 is a lot, but in a grid this big, you're going to scramble for everything if we're not already close to that transfer.
Oh, it is going to be a frantic race for sure. These competitors probably going to commit a decent amount of human rights violations on their competitors. It is going to be a cutthroat night of racing action. We're about to get all up and rolling here soon.
Drivers lining up on the grid, and don't worry, we're going to get no seconds whatsoever to breathe between them, as that's a big grid to get around Brands Hatch. Lining up for the oppositions of the grid in the final 10 laps of racing. It's going to be less than 10 minutes around here, so you get everything you can get. We are green on the road. Sam Spinell quite fast there behind Henry Moore off the line. This is going to be a huge dive in a paddock hill bend for many drivers. 2 to 3 wide all the way down. Druids is on the way. Big hairpin. This is going to be one of your only real braking and overtaking opportunities. That's Jake Williams stuck on the outside line as we head down the hill. Ollie McGowan looks like he was slow off the bat. I don't know if he pit started. Everyone else pretty much made it in one go for now, but there's a lot of moving up and down this grid.
Yeah, Ali Magoon with a horrible start at the very back. I saw him not move at all off the line. Not sure what the deal was for him, whether or not he actually had a stall off the line or what the deal was. Started this race in 23rd. He's now all the way at the back as these racers continue to duke it out all throughout this field. Side-by-side racing as we complete the first of 10 laps. You said that 13 spots in a 26-car field is not a lot of space. Meanwhile, 10 laps around this racetrack is not a lot of time.
Jay Lawrence is in the cut position that matters here, so we'll be keeping an eye on him for just a little bit further up the road. Still a few going too wide. You're going to improve your position in the final if you're anywhere within the top 13, but you don't want to lose your grip on it. That's one driver wildly off the road, the first of many. Likely today, it's going to be hard to get a lot of replays. I think that was Jason M. Allen there, losing it out on the exit down the hill. Now, Felix Favela is right behind Jay Lawrence, and he's got Isabel Matthews up ahead. That he had a bit of a gap behind him. Another car goes sliding. That's Carlos Soveres Ojeda going miles back. If you lose a lot of pace here, it's going to be very, very hard to make that time back.
Yeah, very, very hard indeed. We'll have to see these racers be on the back foot massively as soon as something bad goes their way as we ride on board with a 31 car of Felix Brazil. Let's see what can happen to him as he heads his way down off into turn number 2. This hairpin, a darn good overtaking opportunity. Jay Lawrence now regaining it out there on the racetrack, slotted now down in P23. These races, it's going to be like the tides of the ocean. They're going to come, they're going to go. These competitors are going to come, they're going to go. Others going to swipe their way up to the front right towards the end. Others going to fall back as we get farther along in this race. Those racers inside the top 5 feeling somewhat comfortable. Everybody else, meanwhile, they are not going to be feeling well at all. So we take a look at that moment from Jay Lawrence heading down to the turn 1. Oh, so tricky here. Brands Hatch locks up, maybe a bit of a lock up the rear, but either way, a slice that slides off the track, ends up in the gravel, and his road into the main event is very tricky.
Here's Andre Castro holding off Callum Boyson on the inside in the 27 car. A bit of a send and a little bit of contact. The two keeping it together. Castro got a little bit hooked there by the wheel, but somehow keeps it all in one piece. Now Jake Williams looking up behind, and Yanchi Lin also part of this battle. You're going to want everything you can get for a good grid position near the end of the race, but if all of these drivers come together in bad ways, they're all going to come crashing down and out. That's 2 cars off. Andre Castro, Pablo Lopez, down and around to the side they go. I think Castro's dropping back. Someone's front nose cone has gone exploding. That's Andre Castro's front nose. Just completely dead. I'm not exactly sure how that exploded, but that is a meatball flag. Let me hit that rewind just a little bit. I think, when he was pitched off the track, he actually went head first into the wall. There's a fast repair available, but pretty much get knocked down at this stage, and you're going to have big problems. 6 laps to go, and really that top 4's run away, and the whole pack behind started to compress up.
And that got ugly between Castro and Voisin as they duked it out on that lap. You saw as soon as Voisin went for the dive heading off downtown into turn number 2 that something was going to break. Eventually it did break, and that's Castro now down the pit lane. That's going to give us one heck of a story to talk about come time for the consolation race a little bit later on. For now, though, we have still got this battling for these spots to make it into that main show. Looking at Jake Williams sliding all around. What in the world was that sort of strategy, darting the nose like it's going out of style? He's running in P6, got Lianchi Lin running right behind in that number 9 car, a driver who's won the SCCA runoffs on iRacing in the past. Very good competitor that I recognize from Weekend Warriors Racing here on iRacing. Keep an eye on him in that number 9 machine to maybe impress as he holds on pretty much in the middle of the drivers looking to advance.
Nick Aronson is on the bubble with Danny Calvel behind. Racing still pretty close back here. Have a result very close to the top of that bottom of that cup, and you will get a good position in the consolation, but you don't want to be in this one race winner takes all moment. Here's Danny Clavel's car. So you'll notice it just does get hard to get a run. Jason Chen into the pit lane, by the way, to may have taken some damage up the inside of Paddock Kiel. So this is one way to do it. Gets it sorted. You end up washing wide on exit, and this can get you cut off on the inside, but Danny Calvel's going to move all the way to the inside and actually lock it up, trying to send it too hard. Almost hits Felix Favela. Jake Williams is... that's Isabel Matthews that went backwards right there.
Oh, be careful on the rejoin there. Matthews got to try and get that car back and rolling in the number 36 machine, as that was a driver going off right in front. Lots of drama breaking out in this race. Just saw for Matthews. Let's take a look at the replay in that blue and white
Jake
machine.
Williams.
That was Williams off the track right in front. Contact being made. That was a clumsy rejoin if ever I've seen one from Williams. He's a driver that we've seen a lot of in Formula Ford competition in the past, but I think that was just a little bit of impatience breaking at there. Williams, he really gave the short end of the stick there. He's in the pits at the moment, so I guess there's a little bit of cosmic debt in the midst of all that, but no matter how you slice it, heartbreaking moment for the both of them. They were both running good races, and now they're out of it, looking on the outside in as we head off into that consolation race a little bit later on.
I think that potentially leaves Fabio Birchol's positions quite safe in P13. Jay Lawrence to the second back, and yet you have a bit of a four-way tangle for the possible win. Winner of this is going to have pole position in the final race. So, and it's Henry Moore in the 49 car that's currently leading this road. Sam Spinell we've seen quite a few times, but it's a good number of names we don't quite recognise. If you're glad you're in Heat 2, don't worry, it's about to be that scary on the track again. Callum Voisin leads out from some. Devantier, who's going to make a cut down to the inside. I've seen a lot of him in Skip Barber racing, so I'm used to the name. Yanchi Lin's also in this as well. Has won plenty, as I said, including another time slot I broadcasted last year. So I wouldn't count him out. He's got the greatest H pattern you'll ever see. You might see it on tomorrow's broadcast on the iRacing official channel. 2 laps to go. Bit of a slide from Henry Moore. He's doing a good job of holding off this pack, but that pole position, people are going to want it.
Yeah, as much as getting into that final race is going to be vital for some of the racers a little bit farther behind, going to be important here up in the front as a white flag in the air. One more lap of racing action. Henry Moore, Sam Spittle, and James Dennison going to duke it out nearly 3 wide as they head their way downtown into turn number 1. Who's going to grab this pole? Who's going to grab these spots? It is pandemonium all throughout the fields. That's a driver sent off. Voisin picks up a penalty, I think, so that will take him out of it. And now we got to worry who's going to make it into that spot. I think that may be Jay Lawrence elevated into a transfer.
This is a black flag for incident limit, which is impressive in 10 laps, Callum Voisin. Really impressive award to be given out with the one car going down into Paddock Hill Bend. And that's going to be Danny. That's going to be Sam Devantier sitting in 13th, possibly going to make it over the line into the final. Henry Moore leads the pack, not much movement there. Callum Voisin has to be a drive-through, so I actually don't know what position he's going to make it out the other end of. I don't even think it's going to count using it on this lap. Might advance Jay Lawrence up a position.
Yeah, that's going to be music to the ears of Jay Lawrence, and that was a little bit unnecessary from Voisin. You can't serve a drive-through on the final lap. I've seen many a racer try and do it in the Weekend Warriors, and it never works. And he tried to go for it, and it will not work. So that's probably going to drop him down even more. So keep an eye on that car to try and make his way up through the field in that consolation race a little bit later on as we take a look at that. Yeah, Voisin picking up a black flag for incidents in a 10-lap race. That is rather impressive, and you can see the contact being made. Not necessarily causing it, but certainly didn't do much to avoid it, leaving not a lot of room on the outside and leaving quite a lot of room on the inside. But regardless, race 1 already in the books. Let's take a look at the starting grid for Heat 2. Leo Brown will start from the pole. Luis Nunez will join him on the front row. Hugo Gilbert and Adam Tompkins got complete row number 2. Brandon Nagelvort alongside Hans Jacob Silverson Malat starting this race in P6. Looking right behind, we got Chris Wetz and Jaden Sherwood in 7th and 8th. David Pittard in 9th. Alongside him, you can see that is Ann Medma. P11 will be Martindale. P12 will be Sean Doyle. And looking right behind, we got Christopher Bertle alongside David Robertson. We've got Graham Rory Hunt starting in P15. Eric Van Spiker in P16. David Nielsen in 17th. Jack Stewartson in P18.
They're going so quick. We're about to go green already.
We may have to keep it up and rolling. Yeah, this is so quick. We can't even go through the starting grid. The drivers already lining up on that provisional start line as a green flag zap. The drivers are on their way, and we are green flag for heat number 2. Already jumping down to the bottom is Luis Nunez. Look at Gilbert and Tompkins continuing to duke out there. 3 wide right behind. Contact being made. Gilbert up in the air. He's in the gravel trap, and he's going to be at the back of the pack already. Leo Brown, meanwhile, tries to lead him off comfortably into turn number 2. And Tompkins and Nunez going to duke it out. Look at Nunez really getting hung out to draw on the outside line. He's going to have to worry about some pressure. That's Chris Wetz that he's duking it out with. Side-by-side racing going on all throughout this pack as they head their way through Graham Hill.
Well, certainly some drama going down, but I think the cars here are quite a bit more compressed than they were last time. Martin Dale leads this sort of pack, and Sean Doyle has quite a big gap behind. That's going to take some while to compress. Quite a bit less moving. David Robertson is a cut-place driver here in the 35 car. Eric Van Spiker will be behind the challenge.
And you can see some bad starts for many a racer all throughout the field. Look at Pitter dropping down to P23. Hugo Gilbert, of course, with that moment down to 1, really affecting his race before he even got up and rolling. As we can see some racers with some big sideways snaps. That's Nunes. Contact being made. That's around a bumper car. As you can see, Malat involved in all of that as well. I think the driver involved in that may have been Chris Wett, who got shown the door in that instance, heading down into 2. That hairpin druid's going to be so tricky all throughout this night of racing action, whether it be in these heats, whether it be in the consolation race, or whether it be in the final a little bit later on. These competitors will have to keep wary of that as contact being made. That's Rebecca Morrill and Ian Anderson coming up below as they had their way over the backside of the paddock and heading down into 4.
I wonder how big the penalty is going to be for cutting the turn like that for Ian Anderson, but it's going to put him back in 24th with an absolute mountain to climb on the pack. Luis Nunez started second. He's been doing nothing but drop since the start, losing position after position after position. Seems a bit more secure where he is right now, but it is tricky, and I don't think the pack behind is going to give him much to rest. Graham Rory Hunt sits in 11th. David Robertson still holding off Van Spiker for the 13th.
Yeah, so as we keep an eye on the battle for that final transfer spot, it's still intense with a lot of racers closed up. That drama in the early stages, though, did cut the field down to size somewhat. We'll have to see some racers really have to battle back in that consolation race. For now, though, we still have battles on the racetrack. That's Sherwood and Nunes. They're currently duking it out for the final 2 spots inside the top 5. Who's going to win out this battle as they head their way up the hill, down into turn number 1 right now. Who is going to get that spot? Give it to Sherwood at the apex, but you look right behind him a lot. They're going to maybe try and go for a move here sooner rather than later as Nunes gets a good run down into turn number 2, goes for the dive, last of the late breakers into the turn, and through back into 4th for the driver. The number 4 car will be Luis Nunes. So close there was Sherwood. Bit of a wiggle heading out of 2 into 3 and 4. Could have ended in disaster. It ends in disaster a little bit farther beyond. Chris Wett ends up in the barrier coming out of 3.
I have to try and work out quite which incidents are the most important ones to catch on the track, but Chris Wett's there, going further behind, and it wasn't quite easy to catch at the angle, so catch it over here. Here's Chris Wett's car in the 34. So much can happen to you on the track. Let me put it like that. Adam Tonkins just set the new fastest. I think that one might have been self-inflicted, though. We cut a little bit too much onto the grass, and that was him going around and backwards. Easy to make mistakes under pressure as well. Nunez still under a lot of it.
Oh, there we go. 3 wide heading down to turn number 2. Nunez, Sherwood, and Malat still duking it out for these spots. And look at Malat jumping their way up into P number 5. Well done from him. That's a good overtaking the number 2 car. Gonna have a couple more spots to try and gain here. The top 3 have broken off and driven off into the sunset. Keep an eye on Leo Brown, Adam Tompkins, and Brandon Nagelvort as they continue to drive off into the sunset. Now getting up to the halfway mark of this race, side-by-side racing once again. This is Sherwood and Malat. They've been duking it out for so long in this race. We'll duke it out until something snaps with how hard these racers have been battling. I would like to be in the spot of Van Metma. Gonna have a first row view of this battle, and maybe the first row view of the disaster that may break out if these two make contact. They've gone oh so close to it all throughout this race. I can't rule it out as that's Nunez running wide off through turn number 2. Now gotta feel the pressure from Sherwood, who looks on the outside and nearly dives down to the inside. Malat spins!
What on earth just hit Malat right there? I don't know if there was contact or potentially just losing grip on this car with pretty much no aerodynamic properties at all, but he's down to 22nd, down and out. We'll have to fight for his place back. Oh, it's a little bit of contact into the back of the 13 car. That's what's going to cause that. Kind of hard to spend too long on a replay around here because the action almost never stops. On the 13 mark, this is Hugo Gilbert fighting for it with Jake Humphrey.
Yeah, side-by-side racing going on all throughout this field. I gotta feel bad for you. How he happened to be like a chameleon looking at 16 different things at once. Yeah, golly, that could have ended in tears. Gilbert, oh no, that ends in tears. Contact down into 2, and all 3 of them get wiped out. 4, in fact. That's Bridal involved in all that. He's gonna jump up into P14. I think Stewartson got a piece of that drama. I knew it wasn't going to end well. I just called it a turn before it actually happened. 4 cars stacking it up, some monster trucking action. It hasn't ended though, as I think that was Gilbert running wide, had a 3. You know, you said right before we got this broadcast up and rolling, Howie, it was going to be so action-packed that we probably wouldn't have a single time to catch our breath. I think my lungs are close to exploding.
Yeah, would you believe that we're not quite done? Jake Humphrey's position has been quite secured there in the P13 position. Eric Van Spice getting chased down, David Robertson ahead. Sean Doyle and Martin Dale have been trading places back and forth for so much of this race, we just not be able to catch it. This is for 7th and 8th position. This is one very, very big pack. Luis Nunez still leads it down the road, but it has certainly not been easy for anyone around here. Gilbert and Petard with meatball flags and are having to serve. If you have to serve a meatball, you might as well be down and out of your heat. It was 3 to go because Leo Brown. It will be 2 to go because Leo Brown's about to cross the line. Just had to work out which side of the equation I was on there. I think Sherwood might go for this again on Nunez.
You know, as much as we've seen our fair share of disasters already, this is where I'm expecting another one to break out. These racers have been battling oh so big throughout this race. Nunez dips a wheel off into the gravel, maybe gonna slow up his approach, heading up the hill into 2. 3 wide racing right beyond, contact being made. I think that was Martin Dale with a bit of a wiggle. He's gonna get shown the doors. Graham Rory Hunt go side by side with him, stuck on the outside, heading down into 3. Not able to get that spot, holds on to P9 still, but these racers feeling quite comfortable. Potentially, they still have to worry about just making it to the checkered flag, even though they have a quite big cushion to the cars a little bit farther behind. Jake Humphrey got to be feeling very comfortable as he holds on to P13, and the next car to him is well farther behind. 6.7 seconds, in fact, is that gap, so not a lot of pressure from there. We jump back to the front, though. Leo Brown on that final lap. One more lap of racing action here from Heat 2 at Brands Hatch, and Brown brings in this first and final lap with a bit of a trip off into the gravel trap. Very lucky to hold on to that spot still side by side. Lots of racing here. Sherwood trying to get that move done on Nunez, who's going to win it out as they head their way now downhill into 3. Sherwood still feeling the pressure from Nunez. Not going to work out there for Nunez, who goes for the switchback, trying to capitalize on the run. Heading down this back flat out blast. Look at the side by side racing right behind. Still very tense. If any of these drivers run into difficulties, they'll drop out. Leo Brown on track to win the second heat race and start from the outside pole come time for that final a little bit later on tonight, as it looks like that battling a little bit farther behind will come down in a photo finish between Sherwood and Nunez, potentially closing up that gap. They're side by side at the line, and Nunez not going to be able to get the move done, but gave the old college try, and Medman comes home in P6. Martin Dale in P8. Graham Rory Hunt in 9th. Your final transfer driver is Jake Humphrey, finishing this race in P13. Dave Robertson, Eric Van Spiker, Daniel Nielsen, Graham Rory Hunt, and the rest of the racers going to make it into that big show. But it was already a bit hectic during the first race. Second race cranked it up another notch.
Well, now we're in the place you really don't want to be. The last chance qualifier, one driver will qualify for the final grid position in the final. So imagine carnage for a race win, and all just to end up lining up on last. Now, Ron, you were very fast on the grid, but you're going to have to try this one more time. It's not easy. It never is.
It's going to be Ollie McGowan starting this race in P1, James Speed in P2, Carlos Odea going to be starting this race in 3rd alongside Alex Bomberg, Florian Utz in 5th, Chris Wetz in 6th. Looking right beyond on row number 4, it's going to be Dean Zetas alongside Rebecca Morrill. P9 will be Isabel Matthews, P10 will be Freddie Ingram, P11 will be Addie Codster alongside Ian Anderson. Looking right behind on your next row, it's Roy Pinto alongside Jack Stewartson, Jason Chen in P15, Chris Bridle in P16, Callum Boyson in 17, Nathan Scott in P18. Looking right behind and rounding out your top 20, we got Braxton Cravanger starting this race in P at 19 alongside Marcel Borsic. In P21 will be Andre Castro, P22 Hugo Gilbert, P23 will be Jake Williams, P24 will be David Pritchard, and then looking through, we got Jason Allen alongside Hans Jacob Smolat starting this race in P26, and Elijah White in P27. We got through it on the second time with not a lot of time to spare. These drivers already building the revs in the FX1600 cars. Gotta worry about that run down to turn number 1. Gonna be treacherous as the green flag is out, and the drivers are on their way. Maconi once again getting off to a poor start, although a heck of a lot better than it started in heat number 1. Still gonna feel the pressure from James Speed, who's gonna try and sweep around the outside in that number 53 machine, who's gonna win out in this battle side by side still as they head their way up the hill into 2. Look at O'Day and Bomberg duking it out right behind. Contact being made. That's a huge one heading off into turn number 2, and Andre Cashor got a piece of that as well.
Braxton Cravanger just got what we call the Ian Anderson Award there for one of the most legendary flips in history. I mean, that was beautiful. We're going to have to look back at the front of this grid before it's too late, because this race is going to fly by quickly, but I needed to just highlight that one in all of its glory.
Yeah, that was an absolutely spectacular bit of FF1600 breakdancing, I think would probably be the best way to describe it. Certainly a heck of a lot better than what they did at the Olympics a couple of years ago. Maconi still leads over Alex Bomberg, over Chris Wetz, over Florian Utz. Who's going to get those spots? Let's just find out as side-by-side racing. That's a big wreck right behind. That's another driver up in the air. Lots of drama going on. Jason Shen got a piece of that drama. I think Jake Williams is going to be out of it. He's stopped on the infield. That's going to take him out of contention. We're expecting the drama. We have most certainly got it. Have some drivers rejoining the racetrack, but they are already game, set, match in this race. James Speed rejoining it, but there's no amount of speed that he has got in that race car that'll put him back into a transfer spot.
I mean, if you want to kill someone to go for it, do you really go for it? Make one mistake and I think your entire FF1600 festival is over, but this is the cost of being in this round. Ollie McGowan is going to be the happiest to know this as he flies away into the distance. So up the inside, the 34 of Chris Wett, a huge send. Slow on exit though is going to give that P2 back to Freddie Ingram. Side by side, Florian Moots and Alex Bomberg trying to navigate through the turn. There's more meatballs, by the way. David Pittard's driving around with a meatball too. Can't catch them all around here. Ollie McGowan, so far our beneficiary.
Yeah, he's the one that's coming out of all this smell like a bed of roses after a bizarre incident at the start of the first heat race of this special event. I actually looked back on it at the time to try and figure out what in the world happened to him. It just looked like his car didn't go. I'm not sure if he was stuck in neutral, if he had the clutch in, or what the deal was. But either way, he's had a much better start to this consolation race, holding on to that P1 spot. As long as he can keep it clean and continue to keep his nose on that grindstone, he can maybe extend that gap north of a second, as that's a driver hop of the burn. Chris Wett's gonna go off into the gravel. He feels some pressure, 3 wide racing as they head their way down into turn number 2. That's Florian Utz and Rebecca Morrill making a 3 wide with him. Wett's now in a really tough spot than what he was a few moments ago, side by side with himself and Morrill heading down into 3. He holds on to that P5 spot, but still a lot more pressure than before. That's O'Day spun.
One more down, one more down. One more mistake. That sends you down and out. Freddie Ingram catching up to Ollie McGowan in all the drama that's happening behind. It was 8 tenths. Now it's half a second, and I think it's going to keep getting closer and closer. We've talked about Ian Anderson's award for wrecking. It's a community thing, I've heard. But he is actually here on the track. He's here in P9. Would be good enough in any other heat. David Pittard finally stops in the pits to avoid getting a DQ, but that will be the end of his race. Freddie Ingram is going to make this a battle now alongside Alex Bomberg. They are well within range, but you can get up to someone now. Passing them is the challenge.
Yeah, the problem with Brands Hatch to a certain extent, it's an old school racetrack, so if you want to go for a move, if you want to get an overtake done, you have to break out that old school level of aggression. You got to break those elbows. That got a little bit physical. Here comes Ingram down the inside into turn number 5. He goes for the move out of nowhere and through into that race lead. He's going to go unless McGowan has anything to say about it. Keep an eye on him in that number 33 car. Side by side as they come across the line. Who's going to win out in this drag race down into 1? Keep an eye on Alex Bomberg right at the back of this shot. He's going to try and go for a move soon in case these drivers start to battle off even more. Ingram clears him, but now Maconi back on the outside line, heading down into turn number 2. Who's going to give out in this battle? If they battle too hard, though, you got to keep an eye on that pack a little bit farther behind. That 1.3 second gap may not seem like a big gap, and that's because it isn't. That could disappear in the blink of an eye.
Freddie Ingram started 10th on the grid and is currently showing the driver that started pole how to climb up and get it done in just 5 laps around this track. It's going to be 4 very soon, and I think some drivers will do anything to get this final slot. Driver's still battling behind. Callum Voisin managed to get 17 incident points in a disqualification in 10 laps last time around. He is sort of on the wing here of potentially becoming a factor. He is certainly fast despite everything. He's trying to pass Florian Ushta in the classic Arrows livery right now. Gets it clear before Druids gets it sorted. If he can chase down that pack, I mean, there's not that much time to do it, but if he can, this opens up.
Oh, you can tell that was a close moment between Florian Utz and Chris Wetz based off the fact it sounded like I sat on a cold toilet seat as they headed their way off through turn number 2. So close to contact. It gets to the point in one of these races where you can't even get riled up about that close bits of contact because it happens so often. Got the side-by-side racing. Now this is a battle for the final 2 podium spots. Maconi feeling the pressure from Alex Bomberg as they're now side-by-side coming across the line right now. Bomberg holding onto that inside line. He will clear them before they even think about breathing on that brake pedal into turn number 1. These 3 have been duking it out for a while. Not going to feel some pressure from the drivers behind unless they make some contact, which, hey, based off the style of racing we have already seen here, you can't rule it out one bit.
Ollie McGowan's been dropping after the pole. The long run pace hasn't been there. Alex Bomberg, a little bit slippery there on the exit curb. Could give McGowan the chance, but this corner I find to be a real struggle to get this car looped around. McGowan tries a wider line, wants to cut to the inside, held off by Bomberg. Worth shouting out, by the way, not only is there another show, the finale of the Friday Night Lights Xfinity Series tonight on the channel shortly after the end of this show, but the FF1600 SOF Series returns. Where else but here? Want another 20 minutes of this? Well, whether you like it or not, it's happening on Monday, 8 p.m. UK time, 8:45 p.m. UK time. Chris Wetz appears to have had a connection problem. That'll drop him further back, but some of these battles are fascinating, but really it's about who's going to be in that final, and Freddie Ingram has set lap times like you wouldn't believe.
Yeah, Ingram has put on a darn good performance here in this consolation race to make his name clear. Jumping up to the front, holding on to a nearly 1 second gap between himself and Alex Bomberg as he heads his way around that final corner, about to start the final lap. Looking at side-by-side racing, this is Isabel Matthews and Jack Stewartson. This is a battle for P7 at the current moment, keeping on the likes of Gilbert and Anderson right in tow. This may get a little bit physical at the very end of this race. In fact, here comes Stewartson looking for a move around the outside of Matthews as they head their way into turn number 1. Down the hill they're going to go. Keep an eye on Gilbert. He had a wild ride in the first heat race. Wants to make that up. Oh, he goes for the dive though. That's not going to work. Contact being made. Oh, so close even when they're not linked together. He gets it done though. Does he though? That's a real question. He got one move done. He goes for the second around the outside through 3 and through into 7th goes Hugo Gilbert. Up at the front, Freddie Ingram holding on to that top spot, about to win this consolation race in comfortable fashion. A 1 second gap between your top 2 compared to everything we've already seen thus far tonight is a vast yawning chasm. There's Ingram across the line. He wins it. Bomberg and P2. Maconi completing her podium here. Looking right behind, though, it's Isabel Matthews in front of Jack Stewart, and Ian Anderson holds on to P10 at the end of this race.
I don't know what could compel you to make a dive like that, like Hugo Gilbert did, but somehow nobody died. So yes, it wasn't for anything that truly mattered, but you get an I rating from every session you race in, and, well, we're here to race and not just to whine because we didn't get first, so possibly one of the craziest moves I've ever seen around this track, to be totally honest. Executed. Time flies when you're having fun, or even if you're not, because the feature race is on its way. Every single race been building up to this. We're going to be doing double the length now. 20 laps around here. And time's going to fly, but the winner takes home it all. Let's see if I can do this in time. Henry Moore next to Leo Brown. Sam Spinell next to Adam Tompkins. And Dylan McClements next to Brandon Nagelvort. James Dennison's next to Jaden Sherwood with Young Jae Lin and Luis Nunez in 9th and 10th. Garen Battens in 11th next to Ann Medmer in 12th. Felix Favilla in 13th next to Sean Doyle in 14th. Danny Cloudbells in 15th next to Martin Dale. Nick Aronson and Graham Rory Hunt make up the next row. 30 cars hit this grid. Pablo Lopez next to David Nielsen. Fabio Birchtold next to Eric Van Spiker. And Sam Devontier next to David Robertson. Marking out another 6, Jay Lawrence, Jake Humphrey, Freddie Ingram, Alex Bomberg, Ollie McGowan and Callum Voisin. iRacing told me that one driver would make it, and then they bumped it to 4 at the very, very last minute. That makes 4 drivers that have advanced to the very, very end. I think more drivers filled in during the practice after I did my checking, so I thought it would be the 4. 4 drivers sit at the back of that row. Callum Boyson actually in that last place. And that means we immediately have a race ready to go. 20 laps around the track, and we are green. Who's got the most of that gun? Dylan McClements has a black flag for jumping the start and immediately sends it free wide. He's going to have to back out of that one for sure. He's racing for it on the outside, but he's not going to undo the size of that jump. Sam Spinell on the inside. Brandon Nagelvoort just behind. Henry Moore leads the way over Leo Brown. I think there's going to be a lot of movement further behind. Look at the size. Look at the missing wheel on the 17 car. Where did that come from? That I'm trying to look at it's Danny Clavel's car. And that's another incident on the way.
And that was unnecessary. Already huge damage on that race car. Oh my goodness, we nearly had a driver get sent off to the moon as a result of that contact. Well, you've got a wheel broken off. Pull over to the side of the road and tow back. Don't make that happen, because that just ruined a poor person's race. Nothing they could have done there. That's unnecessary as far as I'm concerned. I rarely get heated and into it, but that's just so pointlessly unnecessary.
Freddie Ingram also meatballed after this incident there. That is enough damage to send them back to the back. Danny Clavel, Sean Doyle was in that too. Lots of victims of our first few laps. Longer race, there is a fast repair, but again, you're probably not earning that win from that position. It's a shame after earning a way through that consolation race. Leo Brown still up behind Henry Moore, the 49 car in this pack with Sam Spinell and Adam Tompkins just behind. Sam Spinell plenty fast. I do need to kind of keep an eye here on Callum Boyson, to be honest, but he has climbed his way up to 19th as it says right now. James Denniston is the 6th car on the pack in that Super Mario design. Running behind 2, going 2 wide. Sam Spinell loose on the gravel and across the track.
And that is going to take him out of it. Oh, look at those racers having a scramble to try and avoid making contact with him. Let's see this moment from Spinell as he headed his way into turn number 2. Stuck on the outside, has to take a shallow approach. And oh yeah, hit that curb and got him all sorts of screwed up. The problem is, with this track, you really have to use a curb. But that's not something an FF1600 car really likes to do. That was a bizarre looking one. Looked like those cars were sucked together with magnets.
Bizarre things are happening all over the grid, and as you know, we're not going to quite be able to catch him. Battle for the lead between Henry Moore and Leo Brown, almost 3 wide down the hill though between the next 3. Adam Tompkins seems to come out the best of them all right now. Actually, no, Brandon Nagelvoort did lead the way, holds up the inside line. Tompkins now falls behind to James Denniston. Luis Nunez leads over Jaden Sherwood for the next pack. Plenty of time here, enough time to sit behind and sort of wait for something unusual to happen. Leo Brown, though, is going to be sizing up Henry Moore for quite some time on the road. Still pretty much locked in for all of them. Lots of packs starting to develop, and Medma in 11th here leads over Graham Rory Hart and Sam Devontier, and his drivers the whole way down this pack.
As we get closer and closer to the end, the aggression going to build even more, as if the aggression isn't high already. Looking at this battle between Henry Moore and Leo Brown, so close to side-by-side racing as they headed their way down into 1. Look at the battling right behind. That's Brandon Nagelvoort. He ran off into the gravel, had to block off James Denniston. He's not going to be able to get blocked, though. He jumps into P3. Nagelvoort now going to have to fight back in that number 18 car, but he's got to worry about Adam Tompkins right behind, the driver of that number 8 machine. Quick driver in all sorts of race cars. I've covered him in these FF1600 machines. I've covered him in GT3 cars as well. Super consistent, super quick, and super clean racer as well. Bit of a breath of fresh air in a race where everybody has just been pulling knives on one another.
As I said, I'm probably going to race one of these later on tomorrow. And if you do sort of like the idea of it, feel free to sign up. There's plenty of slots across the Saturday, and I believe it's around noon tomorrow. The official iRacing channel is going to do their broadcast of that slot, so there's even more to watch of this event. You won't be seeing me on that show. My I rating not even nearly high enough, but I got to tell you the story of when I actually did race this. I managed to survive through my heat while having 2 laps missing my right front tyre. I was just missing it. I did the thing Lewis Hamilton did at Silverstone all that years ago, where he crossed the line missing a wheel. Managed to just crawl my way into the final doing that. That's one of my favourite moments in all of iRacing. Leo Brown on the outside, not much of a run here, might try and go for the inside, doesn't quite. You want to go from outside to inside to back to outside again. Luis Nunez sort of trying to pass Adam Tompkins, he's dropped back quite lead distance.
So already starting to see these racers begin to drop down. I wonder, gotta bring this up. The tires may have gotten too much of a beating. These racers may have gotten too much of a beating. This is one of those special events where mental fortitude will triumph more than anything. You gotta be in the right frame of mind all throughout these races, whether it be in the heat, whether it be in the consolation race, or whether it be in this final. You gotta be there mentally to make it to the very end. And these two looking to be the top of the top. Henry Moore and Leo Brown duking that for the race lead. Still Brown close as ever. He goes for the move. He thought about going for it, at least on the outside, heading downtown into turn number 1. Side by side though, right behind, that's Adam Tompkins and Jaden Sherwood. That's a battle for 6th. It doesn't work out well for Tompkins, and looking down, she went right behind.
Callum Boyson up to 12th, fastest lap of the race so far. I do expect to see him continue climbing his way up the road. Is Anne Medman, Graham Rory, Hunt, 2 SOF regulars, and Nick Aronson, a name I do recognise from the past of the broadcast. So we're sort of going a little bit old school here in the middle of this pack. Every position matters when it comes to getting a good finish you are proud of on the road. Was that a car off the track? I don't think it was. It might have been Sean Doyle. Sean Doyle's off the track and is towed. But upper rack at the front, it's been quite peaceful. These drivers don't really want to ruin the run they've had so far. Young Chi Lin's done quite a bit of climbing. P8 now, taking on Adam Tompkins, who's just doing nothing but dropping back in time.
I gotta say, Tompkins still putting on a pretty good show at the present moment, slotted in P7. We'll have to see how he can do between now and the very end, as all these racers looking to be either the race winners or the center of attention throughout this. I gotta say, after the drama early on, that settled into a groove somewhat. I say that very tentatively, knowing my luck, it will probably result in a 16-car pileup here sooner rather than later, and I called it.
Yeah, I saw that one. That one sure happened. Somebody was going to crash at some point. Oh, that happened with Anne Medman, Martin Dale at the very top of Druids, and then I think that car got busted by the contact, so we actually need to go back slightly further to see what caused that. It was down Paddock Hill. I'm trying to work out. There it is. There's a little bit clip of the wheel, then shocks the right front. Then Martin Dale just can't turn the car, so pretty much whoever's on the inside takes the journey with him. And that's all she told about that. Brandon Nagelvort chasing James Dennison for the P3 position, whereas Luis Nunez still holding off Jaden Sherwood. A few battles we saw early on in the day that have just sort of reoccurred themselves out of nowhere. They've just happened again immediately. Leo Brown and Henry Moore still chasing down for this win. So Henry Moore can't say this is easy so far, because you have a very hungry opponent with 5,000 iRacing who really wants their way in.
Going to be able to punch their ticket into iRacing history as a special event winner. Let's just find out in this battle up at the front, still close as ever. I wonder what Leo Brown's strategy is in this. Is he just running right behind, trying to save up his stuff for a charge a little bit later on? Or is he maybe thinking about getting this move done once they have to worry about lap traffic? I talked about this right towards the top end of the show. Now this is probably one of the shortest, at least on the road course side of things, the shortest tracks that a special event is held all year long here on iRacing. The track is only 1.2 miles long and doesn't have a lot of turns to boot. Quick lap times, quick racing means you gotta worry about the lap traffic even in these short races. I wonder if Leo Brown's maybe gotta wait for that, or is he going to try and go for the move beforehand? He thought about it on the outside, but Henry Moore gonna have that firmly covered off, and Leo Brown backs out of it. I think once again involved in the lap traffic, that may be the time to pants if you are Brown.
I've heard that might not be Henry Moore's main account, but if he was trying to get into another split, he did fail, because he ended up in the top split with just a slightly different iRating number. So he probably is more talented than that 49 number implies. Let me just put it like that. I don't actually quite remember the full name, but that's a problem for another day. Leo Brown is keeping him very, very honest on the track, and it's 2 seconds back to James Dennison. A lot of this has died down back here. Alex Bomberg leads what's next of a major chase. Graham Rory Hunt, Jake Humphrey, Nick Aronson, and Dylan McClement are all in line, trying to get whatever position they can. 13 is a symbolic number, even if it doesn't quite matter for the purposes of this round.
Side-by-side racing going on in this camera shot. That's Graham Rory Hunt and Alex Bomberg duking it out, and through into that spot is going to go Graham Rory Hunt, but it's not over yet. Look at that. Bomberg fighting back on the outside line as they head their way down into turn number 2. Keep an eye on Bomberg. He's now going to feel the pressure from Jake Humphrey. He backs Abbott in that number 51 car. Dylan McClement involved in that battle as well. These small little battles all throughout the field still giving us a lot to talk about as we get closer and closer to the end. 7 laps now left to go for these racers right about now. Henry Moore and Leo Brown still duking it out. Brown now goes for the move down onto the inside into turn number 1. Thought he was just going to lay back, but no. That's Leo Brown holding up to the point, and now look at Henry Moore trying to fight back.
Inside of this turn, it's going to help, but if you stay alongside, you get a good advantage down Graham Hill. Not going to happen. Henry Moore takes it back, but that's the first time we've seen these drivers actually start to move and chase each other up and down the grid. Lots of battling in this pack further behind. We've seen Jake Humphrey swap with Graham Rory Hunt and Nick Aronson. It's almost every single turn on my leaderboard. Graham Rory Hunt loses out 16th in the grass, goes wide, just about holds it together. Leo Brown, though, has a lot of bravery in the tank that we didn't see earlier. I think it's going to have to keep trying this. Outside of Paddock Hill isn't easy, but that inside line is a little bit slower. Tries to get a better run down the inside. Bit of a slip angle as the hill descends. Henry's going to absolutely try to own that inside line, though, and if you can't get side-by-side on exit, you can't really challenge into the next turn. Only 6 laps to go around there, so time is desperately running out. Leo Brown saw a way in. It wasn't the full answer. Now he's got to try again with what he knows.
Yeah, the time is ticking down, and I think we're going to start to see a degree of desperation begin to come up in that number 16 driver's driving style. Leo Brown may start to throw some more lunges at it, really try and get aggressive. Let's see what he does as they head their way on that start-finish straight away across the line. Now 5 laps left to go. Henry Moore holding on to that inside line. That's the thing about racing here at Brands Hatch. As much as you can get a move done with pure unbridled aggression, if you're a driver right in front and there's rather good pace between the both of you, you can just hold on to that spot by defending, as that's Brandon Nagelvort not holding on to his spot. He gets overtaken by Luis Nunez heading down into turn number 2. So that's a swap-a-roo for P4. Nagelvort now holding on to the final spot inside the top 5, but to wrap up on the point that I was saying as my tongue gets wrapped around my teeth 16 times, if you can play a good defensive game here at Brands Hatch, you may be golden.
You've got 3 minutes to make it count. Leo Brown only has 4 more attempts down the inside of Paddock Hill. Henry Moore owns the inside there on the straight, but then gives up that inside line. He wants to carry momentum. Leo Brown's tried this before. It's going to work to keep him ahead going into Druids. Now well ahead into the braking zone. That might be the move cleared for now if you can handle the exit. You want to be on the inside going down into Graham Hill Bend. It's a good clear on exit. The move's been done with 4 to go. Henry Moore's now going to try some of the same. I'm going to watch Luis Nunez as well, because this top 3 could very much be on the cards for that Lightning McQueen car.
Yeah, that is a distinct possibility. We saw Nunez fight back all throughout this evening of racing action. I don't think it's going to stop now. We jump back to the front. Leo Brown now in the top spot. Henry Moore in P2. The side-by-side racing going on behind with James Dennison and Luis Nunez. Keep an eye on Brandon Nagelvort to maybe play a role in that battle as well. Now getting into the final few laps. 3 laps left to go here at Brands Hatch. Running out of time, running out of opportunities, but they're still 3 wide as they head their way down into turn number 2. A bit of a wiggle in the braking zone for Dennison. He holds on to that P3 spot just barely over Brandon Nagelvort, who just overtook Luis Nunez. Close quarter stuff all throughout this field. This is a stressful evening for these racers, but let's take a look at the move that may have been for this win.
Henry Moore gets the break through into Druid's hairpin right as we're watching what could have been an absolute disaster behind. He decided to sort of tee it up and wait to make that dive bomb, and we've seen that insane dive bomb work before. Leo Brown isn't going to give up by any means. Holds that outside. Very, very fast. Still running on side by side, but he's going to have a hard line into Druids unless he has just that bit more momentum to cut out in front. Doesn't have it, but side by side on exit here will allow him a good line down the hill. Sort of bumps Henry Moore to the outside. Just about slide jumps out in front as well. Henry Moore has struck back for this, probably will strike back for this again on the white flag, but has Leo Brown either signed his win or signed his death warrant? We don't know yet, but in less than a minute, we're going to find out. White flag as these two drivers cross the line. Here's onboard Henry Moore's car as he goes side by side on the outside of Paddock Hill Bend. He's got a good run. The draft served him. No momentum, and an inside line is going to be exposed there by Leo taking the racing line. How hard is the outbreak going to go to make this one count? There is no contact, but they're close as all can be. This is spectacular. Racing at the front. Henry Moore looks like it was bumped just a tiny bit wide, but still has momentum on the inside of Graham Hill. Just one more long, infinite turn to go. I think Moore picked up momentum down the straight. James Dennison has just rocketed his way into this battle. It could be a drag race over the line for P2, but Henry Moore earns it back and wins the FF1600 Festival on the final lap.
Well done to all of them. The photo finish right behind with Brand and Dennison ends with Brand over Dennison to round out your podium. But what a race. What a day of action. That was heart pumping from the start of Heat 1 all the way through to the end of the final. And congratulations to Henry Moore coming out of this race smelling like a bed of roses. He had to fight for it though at the end of that race. He really had to fight hard.
Give a shout out to every single driver who made it onto the pack today. Henry Moore wins the feature ahead of Leo Brown, James Dennison, Luis Nunez, Jaden Sherwood, Brandon Nagelvoort in 6th with Yonji Lin in 7th and Garen Batten in 8th. Callum Voisin finishes 9th, pretty much climbed his way up from the bottom to make that one happen. Sam Devantier finishes in 10th.
And looking through the rest of the drivers we have class in this race, we got Adam Tompkins in P11, Dylan McClements in P12, Jake Humphrey will finish this race in P13, Felix Brisbella will finish in 14th, and Nick Aronson will finish in 15th with Eric Van Spiker in 16th, Ollie McGowan in P17, Graham Rory Hunt in 18th, and Medna in 19th. Alex Bomberg rounds at your top 20. It's just a few more racers that we have to go through here. It's Flavio Birchtold who got caught up in drama right at the very start. Paulo Lopez in P22, David Robertson in 23rd, Jay Lawrence in 24th, Daniel Nielsen in P25, Martin Dale in 26th, Denny Clavel will finish this race in P27 with Sam Spinell in 28th, Sean Doyle in 29th, with Freddie Ingram rounding out your top 30 at the end of this race. A racing evening full of action, full of heart-in-the-mouth moments. Those trackside marshals should have a lot more excitement on their face, because I was terrified throughout.
I'd like to just shout out the rest of the drivers that made it into the consolation round. Florian Oosh, Rebecca Morrill, Hugo Gilbert, Isabel Matthews, Jack Stewartson, Ian Anderson, Jason Chen, Markin Bora, Carlos Sobriez Ojeda, Ajay Costa, Dean Zaitas, Andre Castro. Disappointing finish, really. David Pittard, Dave Speed, Chris Wetz, and Brandon Kavanger. Alongside Jason Allen, Nathan Scott, Jake Williams, Rui Pinto, Christopher Brindle, Hans Jacob Silverstone Mollat, and Elijah White. That's every single entrant in today's first time slot. Just wanted to get them all down. It's been a very, very, very important race for me. The first ever independent broadcast I decided to do was just jumping into a time slot of this event. It was super important to me, and it arguably kick-started a ridiculous career that has ended in crazy places and done a lot for me. So coming back to this hallowed ground was a very, very, very important, special and fun moment, and it's so awesome we had an epic, epic race at the end. Well, there's still more of this event to come. 4 more time slots over the course of the week. If you would like to race it yourself, I'll be hitting up some of them myself, although you won't see me anywhere near the top split, of course. Check out the official iRacing broadcast at noon UK time tomorrow to catch another top split round of action, possibly an SOF higher than the 4K. that we saw here, if I were to say so myself. That might be where some of the craziest guns come out, but plenty more chances. Race 7 a.m, 12 p.m, 4 p.m, and then the midnight on the Sunday, of course. We'll be back at this track on Monday, as previously discussed. We're going to have another 20-minute race, even longer than that feature, with the good old SOF series returning to the Brands Hatch Indy Circuit to commemorate the festival. Any other thoughts on a really chaotic day run?
Outside of me screaming, trying to comprehend all of the racing and all the chaos throughout many points of this broadcast, and again, my tongue wrapped around my teeth about 16 times trying to go through the starting grid. It was action-packed, it was chaotic, it was a heck of a lot of fun though. Really happy to be a part of this special event broadcast here on Maconi Entertainment. Scan that QR code if you want your league broadcasted here, always here to bring the action to life. But Howie, that was absolutely fantastic. I gotta say, it's always an honor doing these Formula Ford races with you, whether it be with this special event or whether it be with the officials. And we still got a lot of official action to look forward to, along with the rest of the action tonight here on Maconi Entertainment with the season finale, crowning a champion over on the Friday Night Lights Xfinity Series broadcast starting in about an hour.
Yeah, we'll both be working on that. I don't know if I'm commentating yet, but we barely get a break. Let me tell you that. Anyway, for me, Howie Burrows alongside Ron Mons, just as it's been a joy to bring the rest of the season to you, it's been a joy to bring this